Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Flagship Podcast. I'm Quinny, of course, and this week, without any technical glitches or hiccups, we've got back in the house Josh. Josh, good to see you, my man.
Brilliant to be back on. My console Wi-Fi played up last week, but looks like we're all good to go this week.
Yeah, we missed you last week. Obviously, we had Anthony on, which was great to see. And since we've last seen each other, as brief as it was last week, we've obviously had the game over the weekend there, Celtic away to Kilmarnock, I beg your pardon, with the final score finishing. Had to double check there, 4-1, because I had to double check it because it felt like after 20 minutes it could have been 8 or 9 or something, and it was, what did it actually finish again? But yeah, a nice convincing 4-1 win, Josh, eh?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much a formality. I think when the first goal went in, the second goal about 5 minutes after that, you just knew Celtic were well in their groove. I personally think if Kyogo scored that penalty, it could have turned into a kind of 8 or 9 Dundee United situation. But I think the 3 points away from home, you just want to keep ticking off the games at this stage of the season, and that's what we've done. We weren't our best in the second half, but the game was wrapped up, in fairness. So I think, yeah, big 3 points was another emphatic away win.
Yeah, for sure. And there was a few surprises on the team, and I don't think many people called Haksabanovic starting. I think we all kind of had the feeling Iwata would come into the team, but again, I don't think anyone really seen Kobayashi coming in for this one for the start. The manager did give us a wee tell that the pitch and all that kind of stuff may have played a part in some of them, but yeah, some surprises. But otherwise, their goal was just a pure freak occurrence, and it feels like every goal we concede is some sort of lightning in a bottle freak occurrence. McGregor getting his pocket picked inside his own box like that. It's probably never going to happen again in his life, and it's probably the only time it's happened in his career. So hey ho, it is what it is. But I don't think that's any slight against the defensive performance. Joe Hart, I think, made some decent contributions when asked. But Kobayashi coming back in again, 120 passes he clocked up in this game, and he did not put a foot wrong, and he looked cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I was quite impressed by Kobayashi. The way he knocked the ball about was brilliant. I think we've seen what he can bring in the kind of games he's played up to this point. He's been fairly decent and he's not looked out of place. He looks like another shrewd buy from the J League. Obviously, he's left-footed, and I think that helps a lot when you're kind of playing out from the back and things like that. Like you said, the Haksabanovic start was kind of unexpected, but I don't know if he'd done much in the game. He wasn't that impressive as the other players who played. Iwata looked really good in midfield. I thought the shot he had for the edge of the box was actually in. When I seen it on the TV, it looked as if it would have hit the back of the net. Kyogo obviously gets his goal. It was a brilliant piece of brilliant pressing, wins the ball, brilliant run round his man, and then obviously takes it back and finishes it on the left foot. Maeda got his goal as well. And I think Greg Taylor kind of stood out at left back. He got the assist for one of Matt O'Reilly's goals, and then obviously won the penalty for us, which Kyogo sadly didn't convert. Matt O'Reilly, it was a big performance from him. He got the assist in the derby a couple of weeks ago, a good cutback, and then obviously contributing 2 goals. He doubled his tally for the season, so he did O'Reilly, and it was 2 really good goals from the Dane. So hopefully we can see bigger things from him going in towards the end of the season. He's not really been at his best in the past couple of months, but no, a lot of positives to take from the win. I think we keep saying that as the weeks go on. There are a lot of positives to take, and yeah, good victory.
Yeah, big time. And I think, O'Reilly, we're kind of waiting for the second coming of O'Reilly this season, with the form that Moy and Rio kind of captured, really did kind of put him into the background. And then it's like, does O'Reilly even get into the best midfield? And Moy's so good and this and that. And then big man's back in town, like you say, that assist. He got a goal recently as well over the last month somewhere. I forget where it was. But like you say, he's doubled his tally. It took him ages to even get off the mark. Those 4 goals have probably came in the last 6 weeks or something, So yeah, great to see him really capturing his best form, because coming into that Kilmarnock game, you need a guy like that in midfield to go between the lines, to link up the play, and like his goals, just be direct. Just get into the position of maximum opportunity, as it's called. Haksabanovic did disappoint me, but 88 minutes on the clock, so you can't even say, oh, he only got 60 or he only get 50. 88 minutes. That's solid for a forward in our team at the moment. Yeah. Looking at that, I don't know what you think, and it probably segues us into what we're going to talk about next. But I thought last week CCV and Jota were both down to Ange maybe making a decision on the pitch and that kind of thing. But some people are talking to me about how the build up to the game, Jota wasn't really in training as much, and we'll come on to Carter Vickers in a moment. But how did you read that whole Jota situation, Josh?
I think it was quite interesting, obviously, the training pictures and things like that, but you do never know with Celtic these days, and it's never really anything set in stone in terms of the team, Ange, I don't think said anything in his pressers, but I seen kind of Saturday night on Twitter stuff flying about Jota not being available. Then obviously that kind of came true in Sunday morning when we got the team. So my reading the whole situation, he's probably picked up a knock or something like that. Then obviously just not available. Hopefully should be all right for next week. Don't know yet, but we do have the quality who can come in despite Haksabanović's disappointing performance. I think Haksabanović, I think he's more of a player who can come off the bench and impact things. I think away at Tynecastle in the Scottish Cup, he gained his start after a goal against, I think it might have been Hibs. It was a home game in the league. He scored, then he started the next game at Tynecastle. I think he disappointed in that one as well, and I think he's done it again here. There's no doubt, though, he's got the talent and the quality to shine through in that team. But the Jota situation, yeah, I think it's just a simple picked up a knock, and then hopefully he should be all right. We'll probably hear more when Ange next speaks to the media.
Yeah, I hope so for sure. Because the main fitness concern coming into the games, because obviously in the aftermath of it, and I was saying this to a few guys, I think someone's just caught wind of the booking for the operation or whatever. You know, it sounds like Carter Vickers is going to go for an operation post semi-final. I think we're probably going to see him play Motherwell in the semi-final. You know, I think he'll make it across both those games, but you know, if you know, like it'd be one of those things. Like, imagine that we did play him at the weekend, he'd have probably got that injury, and then everyone inside the club would have known we could have just bubble wrapped him for a game, and we'd have had him for these two big two, and he'd went off into the sunset, enjoying his off season. We'll see him next year. So I don't think it's a major one. It sounds like from the report that I read, and probably most people read, that he's been playing through this for a while. And when you read that, you think, okay, I can actually see that. You know, there has been moments where he maybe looks a bit uncomfortable, or somebody's maybe caught him off balance, and you know he's maybe hesitated. I'm thinking back to the Rangers game. One of them quite early on, he did put his foot wrong once or twice. You know, he didn't let it really knock him off his stride. It didn't really affect his performance. You know, but when you hear that, you think, oh yeah, okay, I can see that he's maybe been carrying something, if you're going to tell me that. So I think we'll probably have Kobayashi, as good as he was. I think we've probably just warmed him up now for maybe the post split kind of period. But I think we'll be all full strength at the back again.
Yeah, I think it's a very wise decision from Celtic to do what they've done. Obviously, leave him out for that Kilmarnock game, and it did turn out to be the right one because it was a formality in the end, and Kobayashi did impress. But I think Carter Vickers, you probably want him for these two key games coming up, and I think once these games are out the way, it is the ideal time to give him that kind of rest and stop him from playing through the pain. But the fact he has been is great testament to him as a character to be able to keep playing through an injury and contributing to the team what he has. He's not looked extremely poor, he's not looked below standard, but like you said, he has had the wee kind of moments where you've noticed, oh, that's not the Carter Vickers we're used to seeing sometimes. Nonetheless, he obviously keeps playing through the pain and will have his kind of rest come after the Rangers game. And I think as well, it gives Kobayashi a great chance to get a run in the team after those league games where we'll look to wrap up the title and potentially in a Scottish Cup final as well if we obviously win the semi. And I don't think Ange will have any qualms about putting Kobayashi into the team in a final against either Inverness or Falkirk if we get there. Don't want to be jumping ship already, but I think yes, it's a very wise move from Celtic, and I think we've had a lot of wise moves under Ange, whether it be team selection, transfers, and this is just yet another.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. And I think, like, and again, probably, yeah, I say probably one of the last things that's worth mentioning coming away from the Kelly game with the fitness and stuff like that is Haksabanović getting 88 minutes. Jota, again, you know, I guess we need to wait and hear from the manager really on Jota because we're all kind of guessing at this point. But with him getting 88 minutes, in my experience of trying to forecast the team and all that kind of stuff, normally someone that gets quite close to 90 minutes, one of the forwards I'm talking about here, you don't often see them start the following match, you know. I've spoken about this before on the channel, but like it does feel with some of those forward positions, and I guess you could say in midfield, we've seen this with Rio and Turnbull. They share the 90 minutes quite concisely. You know, you can see how it goes. Yep. And if he's got 88, then maybe next time it's all Jota's getting the start and you're on the bench, and I'll see when we get you on, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's potentially what could happen. I think as well, it's good to see Ben Summers and Rocco Vata get minutes off the bench. I think Vata looked impressive, played in that cross for O, who was unlucky, and then Ben Summers making his Celtic debut. So good to see the young boys coming through as well, add yet more options to the team, and hopefully we see more of them if we do wrap up the title early. But you never know. But just, another thing I did was good to see them get some minutes.
I think a big part of the reason they get minutes, see if you look at the bench, how thin it was at the weekend. You know, when you do take, obviously Abada and Hatate are not in the squad for last weekend. We'll maybe get the man to the squad this weekend, but we really don't know. Probably Rio's how I'm feeling, but again, hard to know. So yeah, I think once we get to the back end of the season, it will just depend, because again, maybe the decision will be made like it has been with Vickers. Maybe somebody like Hatate sits out the last 2 games or something like that before, or sits out a game in the middle so they can play the final in a good fettle and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think there'll be minutes coming for these guys, because even though the squad is super deep, like we need like 16 guys available for a match. We don't need 11, you know. So when you're factoring in those numbers, then the space is there for these guys if they can make the squad in terms of the bench, which is cool. But yeah, so Liel Abada to Ajax transfer rumours is kind of what popped off, I think, the day before yesterday. And then this morning, you were telling me right before we come on that Benfica have officially been linked to him as well. I think we've known that Abada, because I think, was it December, Josh, around the World Cup time, where he changed his agent. We tried to give him a contract. We kind of knew the contract wasn't accepted. If not, we knew it was rejected. You know, it was one of those ones.
Yeah.
And, you know, now we're end of April and nothing's happened to change that. And if anything, it's the absolute contrary. We're getting, I don't know if we would call it concrete links, but, you know, links from mildly reputable sources, it must be said. That genuinely, once enough of them start singing the song, it must come from somewhere, you know.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it wasn't. I don't say it was kind of surprising to hear about the rumours initially about the contract, obviously back just before the World Cup. But now it's not surprising to hear about these teams that are linked, and it definitely wouldn't be surprising to see him leave the club in the summer. I think the 2 sides that are interested, Ajax and Benfica, are obviously reputable sides. They're not top 5 leagues, that should be noted, but they're still in decent competitions, and obviously the Portuguese league and the Dutch league. Benfica just got knocked out of the Champions League last night to Inter Milan. They put up a fight, so I think the teams that are interested are good, and it's testament to Abada's quality. And I don't know how much Celtic will be able to get from him if they do sell him. If they do, obviously this is just the start of rumours, but like you say, it is coming from somewhere, and it's only probably going to gain momentum before the season's end. But like you say, change his agent. So all the signs would point towards a summer exit, but obviously we're only speculating now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, I've heard a lot of other people talk about the move and stuff like that. And it's one of these ones where, like, Benfica and Ajax don't play in fantastic leagues, right? They don't have huge TV deals or anything like that. The standard of their opposition isn't that great either, you know. So I hear a lot of Celtic fans talking about, well, and I guess we know that Ajax and Benfica, and this is kind of the point I'm going to get to, is they are very different entities to how even Celtic, you know, kind of hold herself, and you could say even the other side of the city, and a lot of other clubs in similar situations. That both these teams are very much very historical, very big and proud, like Celtic are, of course, right? But I've mentioned this before. I can't remember where or how or when, but I read a report, Josh, or I watched one of those mini documentaries, a football one, and it was like Benfica's youth academy hasn't hired a new coach in, like, or they'd hired their first new coach in like 25 years or something like that. Like the people that work there, like, have always worked there, you know. And it's like, and also there's different immigration rules for some of these countries, etc. But I don't hear anyone about going to Ajax and playing in the Dutch league and, oh, it's not that great a standard, or you can't really develop more there. You can develop more in these places because Ajax and Benfica and Celtic are now getting this way. They, you know, they look at Abada, they look at Calvin Bassey. Let's just throw him in there as well, right? And they will say, like, Calvin Bassey is a great example. So I was having this conversation with a Rangers friend of mine the other day. But they look at Calvin Bassey and they do the same with Abada. And they say, this is what's in front of us. This is what the guy can do. This is his numbers, his speed, his passing accuracy, his goals per minute, if it's a forward, all that kind of stuff. His weaknesses are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And then they'll look at that and then the strengths, and they work out, do you know what? If this guy trains with us for 2 years, 3 of those weaknesses go away, and see those 2 strengths he's got, we can actually make them a lot better. And that's how they develop these players. Whereas quite a lot of the time, if you think about any player we've generally signed, even if you think about the players that are getting signed across the other side of the city, there's none of that thinking about it. It's looking at a person. What can they do? How old are they? How much are they? Can we bring them in? And that's more the consideration, whereas they're much more the other way around. They look for something that they can work with, you know, and that's why they'll go, do you know what? We'll spend 15 million on Abada, because if we fix these 2 weaknesses and we make these strengths a bit better, we know that's a 60 million pound player to us, because we can sell to the Premier League and to the big 2 in Spain and whatever. So so it's one of those ones where it's not necessarily I don't think it's a slight against what I'm getting at here. I don't think it's a slight against the Scottish league. I don't think I don't think there's a problem with the competition we play in. I don't think it holds us back. I think it's more it's more, and I think we're getting better at this and we're moving away from it, but it is more the worry about yourself mentality. If you're a big youth academy kind of club and these teams have been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years. It takes a long time. And we've been doing it over our history, of course, but not to the sophisticated level that these clubs have got to now, if that makes sense. So I'm always like, with this transfer, I'm quite happy to see him go in the sense that I hope we get good money for him. They'll build on a juicy sell-on fee because they're not probably going to spend too much money, but they're expecting to sell for big. That's their game. We're going to get cut in on that, no doubt. But for Abada, he needs more minutes. He needs more regular game time. And, I think it's a good move. It's going to be a good move for all, really.
Yeah, I would agree. I think what you touched on with the likes of Ajax and Benfica, it's very much a forward-thinking transfer model, and obviously bringing them in for not a snippet, a decent fee. That we'll get a decent fee for him, no doubt. You look at what Across the City got for Bass, it was decent. You'd like to think we can get more, the same, maybe even more for Abada. And obviously a good example of what you were talking about, the model, is Darwin Nunez at Benfica. They signed him from the lower leagues in Spain, or maybe outside in the kind of relegation zone in the league. I'm not entirely sure. For a decent fee, must be 15, 20 million, something like that. Not entirely sure. And then they sell him, they keep him for a year or two and then sell him to Liverpool for mega bucks, something like 70, 80 million. So that's probably what either of the sides would be looking to do with Abada. And like you say, therefore, if we put in a decent sell-on fee, obviously we've got that with Jeremy Frimpong. Obviously, Bayer Leverkusen could be another example of those types of clubs, but they are in the Bundesliga, which is a top 5 league. But yeah, I think it's a good move for all parties. Celtic right now at the minute can't offer Abada the game time he wants. Potentially a club like Ajax or Benfica could and make him a regular starter, and therefore go on to make that big money from them, which would benefit Celtic in the future as well if we have a sell-on fee. And I think obviously we'll touch on potential transfer targets, not targets, just potential areas to improve the squad later on. But there are a few players you could get in to replace Abada who could go on to be even better than him. He's still only 21, 22. He's got 12 goals and 7 assists this season, despite him having limited minutes. He seems like one of those players who are on the fringes. You don't see him that often. He'll come for 20 minutes, but he has 12 goals and 7 assists. He scored 2 in the first Glasgow derby of the season. So he has been a decent contributor, but I think this summer could be the ideal time for him to move on. It would be sad as well because he was Ange's first marquee signing, obviously back when he came in. Abada was the first one. It was either Abada or Starfelt or Kyogo, one of them.
What I was going to say is, I was going to check you on. I think it was the first one to come in. But what I was going to say is Abada, and then the last 2 people we sold, Juranovic and Giakoumakis, I don't think any of those 3 Ange picked. I think they were kind of, club ones.
Yeah, aye. That's a valid point, actually. But no, he's if he does go in the summer, he's had a good 2 years at Celtic. He's won trophies, goals and assists, scored in derby games. Obviously, he was the hero in that. Well, he wasn't the hero. He got a goal in the first win over Rangers in a number of years when we beat them 3-0 at Celtic Park 2 years ago. But no, I think Abada's been a good player for our side, and obviously loads of goals and assists. Good young player. We know the potential he has because he shows it. He doesn't show it in flashes. He is rather consistent when he comes on. Obviously, we've seen what he'd done when he came on against St Mirren. I think it was last month, a couple of months ago, away when we beat them 5-1. He came off the bench at half time and then made a big impact, scoring 1, getting an assist. So we'll be interested to see what he does do if he does go and how his career pans out, and it will only benefit Celtic financially in the future as well.
Yeah, I think last thing I'll kind of say on Abada, I think particularly Ajax, if he does go there, like Abada, as you say, he doesn't come in flashes or whatever, but there's only stages of the game where he's effective. He needs to be running at people. He needs defenders on the back foot, or he needs to just ghost into the box because he's got a great nose for goal. He's got a great nose for positioning and getting a cheeky tap in or a one-touch finish kind of idea. So yeah, I think it's those parts of the game where that doesn't happen. It's probably what they're looking at, and they're thinking, do you know what, we just need to teach this guy how to do this or how to do that, and that means those other minutes where we are getting frustrated and he's not doing anything and we're probably subbing him off. They're thinking about how could we actually. So anyway, I think the only way is up for Abada. He can only improve as a footballer, and some of those natural. I say that nose for goal he's got. Like you can't, if people have that, they don't. But Ange claims some things are already in place for the summer window. Now, we've seen a lot of prep coming into January. Obviously, Alistair Johnson, Kobayashi were in big time. I think Iwata, we tried to get him in even sooner than we did. And obviously, same with O and Cho as well. If we were to have something lined up already, what would it be?
there's a few positions you could be thinking about. I think obviously this news comes as no surprise to Celtic fans, especially under Ange, the way things are working. I think if the rumours and the speculation is true about Abada, you could be looking at another attacker coming in. And you could potentially be looking at a goalkeeper. I think a long-term kind of Joe Hart replacement. He's 36 now, someone that can come in and take the gloves off Hart. I think that's kind of the two main ones. I don't think left back's one you could be looking at. You've got Bernabei and Taylor, two decent enough options there. I think another attacker, winger, and a goalkeeper could be the positions, but I don't know what you think.
It's a tough one because I was thinking when we got this question in for the pod, I was thinking, well, Celtic, we're all spending Jeremy Frimpong money, as you've mentioned already on this podcast, you know. We've got a pretty strong authority. We're probably going to at least break even on Barkas, maybe even make some money on him if the rumours are to be believed. Obviously, the January business and the profit we've banked already. Champions League money is, we can probably plan for that now financially. So I look at that and I think, man, what kind of budget could be slushing about here, you know? And if it is something prepared and lined up and, like maybe, Abada's going to go out. But again, at the moment, I think we've got our strongest three there. But Ange obviously wants to keep the tempo high, the competition for places is vibrant, etc. But I think, it has to be a goalkeeper. But I think we'd probably have to spend a bucket of money on a goalkeeper. And I don't know how well that would always sit with people because spending lots of money on a goalkeeper is never fun, But to replace Hart, again, like we've seen it with Barkas, we've seen it with Bain, we've seen it with bloody everyone since really we couldn't sign Fraser Forster on the first occasion.
Yeah.
That not having a good goalkeeper is worse than a hole in the head, And if you're going to replace Joe Hart, which might not be everyone's cup of tea, but no one can doubt the guys of the level that we operate at, He might not push us up a level, he might not lift us, he might not be that extra 10%, but there's no doubt he is good enough to play for us, in that way. So I think, if we're going to spend a lot of money, it's a bite the bullet purchase for the next 5 to 6 years. It could be a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there is certain weaknesses in Joe Hart's game that I think a new goalkeeper could come in and improve on. There's literally been no names flying about. I seen Kelleher maybe as one, but I don't know if he'd be out of our price range. But like you say, the budget we are going to have this summer is going to be mental, especially.
Potentially. Let's see how much we get.
Potentially, we don't know. But you look at the Champions League money that we're likely going to have. You look at the Frimpong bucks. You look at also Abada potentially leaving. Like you've said, we could have a decently sized amount of money to play with. And I think, goalkeeper is one of those positions. We may look to bring someone in. Barkas, I think most Celtic fans will be against giving him another chance. I'm probably in the same boat, to be honest with you. Never rule it out, but I don't think he will get another chance. I don't know what's happening.
What do you think's harder to come back from? The guy Lloris for Liverpool or Barkas for Celtic? Who's harder to come back?
I've got to go with Karius at Liverpool.
Loris Karius. Sorry, I've been Lloris.
Karius, yeah. I think the Champions League final making 2 errors like that it's horrific. But yeah, the Barkas
has more of a chance than him. Then.
Probably. But you never rule it out under Ange. We've seen what happened with Tony Ralston. You never know. And he is that modern goalkeeper who can play with his feet. But I'm not going to go on a tangent and say Barkas another chance. Tony Ralston 2.0. Here we go. I think there's definitely other goalkeepers out there, and I think that they will be on the radar at the minute as well as potentially another attacker.
Yeah, I can't imagine we're forward planning any more midfielders to come in, really, because even if we sold Turnbull or something, I don't think we're scratching around desperate for, because again, Haksabanovic wants to play midfield, really. He wants to play number 10. So I think it would have to, if it's not the goalkeeper, it has to be a forward, like you said. I don't know. Is it Cho? I heard people saying when we signed, that Cho might not be done. The Cho deal still could happen. So it might be Cho. Cho might be locked in now. It's like, hey, we'll get you in the summer.
Yeah.
That might be it.
Yeah, you never know. I think as well, you just mentioned Turnbull there. He's got a year left in his deal come the summer. So I think that's going to be a dilemma for the club. Do you give him a new contract and keep him on, or do you sell him? I think you probably...
Depends on the interest, doesn't it? If you can't sell him, keep him. Make sure he doesn't lose for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think he's been as much of a contributor as he was last season. Obviously, guys like Moy have come in, O'Reilly, and then even Haksabanovic will look to play in that number 10 position, like you say, and that potentially frees up another spot. in the attack for someone who comes in. But yeah, the midfield is as strong as it has been. We've got great options in there now, especially with Iwata. He's shown what he can do. Like, you're looking at McGregor, Iwata, Hatate, O'Reilly, Moy, and Turnbull. That's 6 options. There's only 3 midfield spots in the team. Haksabanovic can slot in there as well. I don't think the defence will probably need strengthened unless we lose someone. Bernabe, Taylor looks set. Johnston, Ralston are all right. Fullback positions, and obviously you've got Carter Vickers, Kobayashi, and obviously Starfelt as well. There was Fabrizio Romano, I think he said a couple of months ago there was Premier League interest in Starfelt. Don't know anything about that, but that could be an interesting. Yeah, that could
I was saying last year on the podcast, I thought the plan was to sell Starfelt and keep Jens. But then obviously we couldn't sell Starfelt because he was injured. So
yeah, exactly. I think that was interesting with the Jens situation. Obviously went back to his club. I'll be interested to see as well what happens with Stephen Welsh in the summer. I think Ange does rate him and Ange does like him, but obviously they turned down the moves last summer, and I don't know if it was interesting in January as well, but he's barely played. Interesting though that he scored our first goal of the league season against Aberdeen. You never know. I think the defence looks set, midfield looks set as well, unless we lose any key players. I think you're just looking at the front line and then the goalkeeping position.
That's probably the last thing to say on it is we have also had fake rumours, real rumours, hard to know rumours about Hatate, and everyone's making the lazy, Brighton because Matoma and their pals, and maybe there is genuine interest there, right? Who knows? But like if Hatate goes again to replace him, now I know we got Hatate for a couple of packets of chips and a can of juice, right? But to replace him this time, number one, going back to Japan, I think they've got our number now. And I think they're tying guys onto contracts, and I think they see us coming now. So if we're going to go back to Japan again, I think we've played that trick card enough times. That we're not going to get another guy for 800 grand or something again, probably. So then we're moving into Europe, and if we're moving into Europe and we're selling guys for double digits, other teams look at that. If we were going to Belgium, we're going to Portugal, we're going to Holland, wherever we're going to buy players, they know, you can spend a few quid, and again, if it's a player of Hatate's quality, level, style, those guys are never cheap anyway, So maybe it is a marquee playmaker. I had someone hit me up on TikTok, so I put a TikTok out about this today, and they said James Ward-Prowse, who's would be allowed. Imagine that. I don't see it right, but imagine Hatate out, JWP in. That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
That would be amazing. Couple of nice free kicks.
Set piece monster.
Yeah, to be fair though, I think the age profile probably wouldn't work with the way we operate. But
I would agree.
That's a pie in the sky one. I wouldn't be against it, to be fair.
No, but if we could find like a cheaper, younger guy like that, maybe.
That could be a shout. I mind Dylan Levitt looked all right at Dundee United last season, but I think he's got an injury now. He's been out for the last couple of months. There's another couple of decent players floating about in the Scottish Premiership. We look at Duke as well up at Aberdeen. He looks a player. But I probably wouldn't get into names too much now. Obviously, Celtic will have their own targets. Maybe they've definitely played the Japan card too much. We've ran out of Japan cards to play. We're looking around Asia as well. Obviously, South Korea is a potential market for us. We've signed There's been the Cho interest as well. I'd be interested to see is we've expanded our market under Ange. We've looked across the globe. We've looked at the USA. Canada with Alistair Johnston, and then obviously we've dipped into South American market with Bernabe. So there will be options everywhere for Celtic as well, and I'm sure Ange will be looking to bring in any quality, and he only accepts players of quality, does Ange Postecoglou, and I think that is what is the main thing, and that is what he'll look to do this summer.
Yeah, and it does feel like, I kind of mentioned that earlier, but it does feel like Abada, Giacomakis, Juranovic, Turnbull, if he was to go as well. Who else is really in the squad that Ange didn't bring in? Starfelt, like you mentioned. And then, again, if you're going to be pedantic about it, you would also then go to the level of Jota and Vickers. But again, I think Vickers will be here for next season. This whole surgery getting booked thing, I think it's a masterstroke from the club that they've made this public, because now he's going to be injured all season, recovering from surgery. No one's going to buy him in the summer. So I think we've got CCV booked in for next year. And Jota, again, I think he was brilliant in the derby, and I think he's really coming back into a game, but I don't think he's had the season to get the interest to make that move worthwhile. So it's one of those ones that I think, like, anyone that does leave, like, I think Hatate, I think Andrew would really push to keep him, whereas maybe Jota or maybe Turnbull or Abada, he's not as bothered about, because even though they're brilliant, he's really glad that they're here. It's like, well, I'll go get my guy for right wing that I would like, I'll go get my guy for centre back or whatever, sort of idea. So yeah, that was probably just the last kind of piece I wanted to say on that. It's just watch who does move out and move in, because again, guys like Hatate, Kyogo, I would be surprised if he didn't fight to keep them for at least another season or so, because we do expect big things from this squad.
Yeah, we definitely do. I think Kyogo's locked in for a while now. He's 28. He's kind of at that profile where clubs. He's at the profile where he might be staying at Celtic for the future, the long term future. I think as well. Ange, like you said, will fight to keep Hatate. What he brings is extremely hard to replace. I think he's an extremely talented football player, and I think it's definitely tough to find someone of that ilk who'll do the same job. Whereas I think if you look at a Jota, there's a lot of different players that bring that flair and that flamboyance and that skill out there. But nonetheless, you would get good fees if either of them left. But Ange will want to keep Hatate at most. Jota is one he might not be too bothered about losing, but he would still fight to keep him.
Yeah. And the last one I throw into that bucket is maybe Haksabanovic, because again, I don't think that was an Ange ID, as it were. So that kind of takes us on to the weekend, right? So the last game before the split. Obviously, I've been at a few games this season and I can get some tickets. And I don't think, by the way, I've had more requests, can you get me a ticket, than for this one. I think it's going to be an absolute party season. Last home game before the split, last game before the split, last game before the semi-final, and then this kind of final furlong, as it were. Towards the end of the season, we've kind of danced around what we think the team might be come the weekend, right? But before we go into any sort of like predicted 11s or anything like that, Motherwell feel like they're in a bit of an ascendancy at the moment. Van Veen seems to be in better form, or he's in form. The manager that's came in, is it Kettlewell? He's got a bit of a tune out with them recently, and Motherwell, over the time, they're never really that easy for us. No matter, you can roll back to the years, Motherwell was always a team that will fight Celtic, So, do we go into this game as confident as we normally are, or is it a wee bit of there's a sucker punch in this team?
I think you go into every game confident but not arrogant, and I think Celtic should be confident in this one that if they play their best, they can win the match. Motherwell, as much as they have been on the ascendancy, they get beat off Dundee United last weekend, 2-1 at Fir Park. So there's that. But they do have some dangerous players, Motherwell, obviously. Kevin Van Veen up top, like you mentioned. Blair Spittle in midfield is a creative asset. They do seem to be a tough nut to crack sometimes at Fir Park. I think we had them a couple of midweek games in the winter. One of them we won in the, I think it was the League Cup, we beat them 4-0 or something like that. But then the other one was a bit of a dodgy 1-2-1. We had a Jota contentious offside decision in that game. Hopefully we don't have any of that this weekend. I think at Celtic Park, though, Celtic can beat anyone in the league. We've proved that this season. Obviously, our home record is absolutely immense. The 17 wins in all competitions, just home and away. So I think we go into the game high in confidence. We don't go into the game arrogant, but we'll go into the game high in confidence and showing that we can prove that we can win this game and get this game out the way before a massive semi-final.
Yeah. Celtic's home record in the league this season: matches played 16, matches won 16, goals scored 50, goals conceded 11. So it's an average of like 2.8 to 0.08 or something like that per match, which is basically an average of 3-1 average score, which is lovely for this point in the season. It's not like over 3 games, it's over the whole season. So yeah, home form's definitely for us. I'm just trying to be, like you said, but wow, by the way, if you look at the away table in the SPFL, Celtic and Rangers are obviously 1 and 2, but you wouldn't guess who's third.
No clue. Motherwell.
Third best away record in the league: 6 wins, 3 draws, 7 losses.
Wow.
But I don't think that's maybe something to worry about, but it's something to note, certainly, that they do fancy playing away. They don't mind it, So I'm quite confident. But again, when I see the form Van Veen's in, Starfelt having missed last week, I don't think that'll be a bit of an issue. But again, I think that's also part of the reason I think Carter Vickers comes in for this game, because he can just babysit him the whole match, and it's probably just going to be nullified, So I don't think keeping a clean sheet might be tough, because we're always liable for the lightning in a bottle stuff that we're talking about before, as well as maybe a striker that is on form and could score a good goal. These things do happen as well. So I think Hart will start, and we'll probably go Johnson, CCV, Starfelt, Taylor.
I think I don't know. I think Taylor, Johnson, left, right back. I don't know if we'll go with Kobayashi and Carter Vickers maybe, just to give Kobayashi the minutes because he's obviously he knows he's gonna get that run. You never know. I think Carter Vickers definitely starts. I think it will just be a toss up between Starfelt and Kobayashi. I think that's just a shout to throw in.
Noted. Yeah, brave. I think I would love to. I totally get that. But I think the thing that stops me from backing that, because I'd love to back that, is that I think the manager will really use. I think the team that starts this game will start the semi-final.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we'll see the key players come off at 60, 63 and all that kind of stuff. You know, so that's where I stop. Because I think before the semi, we've got a week off. 6 days or something. So I think you'll probably want Starfelt and CCV to get the minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
Midfield is a problem, but right. I don't think any of us can drop Iwata. Obviously, McGregor doesn't get dropped.
Yeah.
O'Reilly's in great form. But does Rio, because again, Rio, we're expecting from the manager's comments last week, people who didn't make it should be back available for next week, right? And we've seen that he has been ruthless with Hatate. And if you do want Hatate in for the semi-final, we all probably would agree he would get minutes in this game.
Yeah.
But does he start?
It's a big dilemma. Like you said, McGregor is locked in. I don't think Moy gets a shout of a start. Because, like you say, this team's I think that's always what you say the game before the derby is the team that starts this game is the team that starts the derby. So yeah, McGregor locked in. I think it's very, very hard to drop Iwata in this type of game, but we've seen it in the last game before the derby. So we went up to Ross County. Iwata started that game. I think he played the full match. And then he was dropped for the derby. I mind him coming on in that game with about half an hour to go, and he did look all right, to be fair. O'Reilly probably starts, but I seen this floating about as well, a McGregor, Iwata, Hatate midfield. That would be interesting. But I think it's either going to be McGregor, Iwata, Hatate, or McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, because I think Ange will want to play Rio no matter what. I think he wants Rio Hatate to play in the derby, and I think in order to do that, you need to get him set up and give him minutes in this match because he's one of our best players. Frankly, Iwata then comes on for the last half hour to just calm things down, or maybe even get his pushes on for a winner. I think as well in the derby, if Hatate starts, then Iwata comes on for the last half hour. We know what he can do, and we know he can be brilliant, and we know what he can contribute. So I think that is the options. O'Reilly, I think you can't drop O'Reilly after he scored 2 goals and doubled his tally. Watch Ange though, just go and put him on the bench. Yeah, there's a lot of dilemmas, but it's good dilemmas to have.
I was just scrolling back through the last couple of teams, in terms of rotations and stuff. We played the team that played Hearts at home, beginning of March. The midfield started as Moy, McGregor, O'Reilly, and fair enough, some other guys were neither here nor there, whatever. But Hatate started on the bench that game and came off, and it was at home. So I'm trying to think about venue and that kind of stuff. I personally think the midfield will be the same as I think it'll be very much similar to last week again. I think he'll actually keep Iwata in. I think Iwata will play the semi-final, unless we get some sort of revelation that Hatate is like you see him in training and he's doing somersaults and backflips and stuff. Then I think Iwata's in. I think it'll just be safe. This semi-final, you can't goose it. And they made the mistake in the last game of playing Moy, and he should have played Iwata because I think we all agree with that. So I think, I personally, unless I say we get Rio doing backflips in training, Iwata, McGregor, and O'Reilly for me in midfield. But up front is a question as well. Do we keep Haxa in after that 80 minute? We basically, like we were talking about before, he just clocked up 90. Is Jota going to be in the picture? What do we think about Dyson and Kyogo? Does it all get a start?
I think you've got to go with Kyogo. That's a definite. I think Abada might be returning to fitness, but I don't think he starts. The dilemma is big dilemmas. If Jota's back fit, you may see him get a start or on the bench. I think Maeda most likely does play along with Kyogo. I think it's just the other spot that's up for grabs between Haxa and Jota. I doubt you'll see Haxa and Jota start together, one on either wing. As entertaining as that might be, I don't think we'll see it. It'll probably be Maeda, Kyogo, and a toss-up between Jota and Haksabanovic.
Yeah. And I say that whole 88-minute thing, that just feels like a tell to me. But what I also feel like, I think, because Haksabanovic has been getting a lot of press over the last 2
Yep.
weeks internally,
Yep.
So maybe he plays 88 minutes. They're expecting a good game out of him. Maybe only played 88 minutes because they wanted him to get his goal or something, and they gave him every chance they could, because normally, as you see, like Kyogo, didn't matter, you missed your penalty, you've got your goal, it's half time, let's get on now. It felt like there was a wee bit of that going on, perhaps, So I don't know, is it a tell that he's had the 90 minutes and subsequently Jota will come back in, or is it you're going to get your chance? We're going to give you your chance. You've been waiting for your chance. You've been working hard. And, playing you, then dropping you if you don't score. It's happened to Hacks already. It is a bit tough and it is a bit rough, right? But again, I think it's a semi-final preparation. So I think the semi-final in mind, Jota's been left at home. Chill out, play the guitar, listen to some music, pal.
Yep.
We'll bring Hacks on. Hacks, you're getting 90 minutes here, pal. And then next week, you're going to be off the bench and you're going to be off the bench in the semi.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be Jota, Maeda, Kyogo, personally.
Yeah, that could be the plan. I think Haksabanovic, I mentioned it earlier, is better when he's coming off the bench as an impact player. We've seen it before.
Unfortunately for him.
Yeah, exactly. He scored a couple of goals, and then obviously in that final against Rangers, he came on and he done really well. He should have scored a couple, to be honest. But yeah, like you say, Maeda, Kyogo, Serts, and then Jota, probably if he's fit, starts. Then probably Abada and Haksabanovic off the bench.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think as well that kind of takes it. We're kind of dancing across subjects quite well today, Josh. Right, but after the semi-finals, after this is locked and loaded, it's all semi-final time, right? We're talking again about this team should be the team that plays the semi, probably, and all the rest that goes around with it. Again, like I'm coming into this semi-final, I'm coming into this derby game, and it feels like every derby game, Josh, there's something that's leveled the playing field for them. The first game, I probably don't need to remind you, but just for anyone at home listening, first game, Kyogo off, 5 minutes injured.
Yep.
The second game, what happened the second game? The second game was Taylor off, 20 minutes injured, Alistair Johnson's debut.
Yep.
And in the last game, obviously no Hatate, no Abada, Jota. Jota played the last game, didn't he?
Yeah, he scored.
Of course he did, yeah. So yeah, and what else? Yeah, I think that was pretty much the size of it. So every game there's been a little bit of something where we keep hearing about the real Rangers that are becoming a Bigfoot now. Everyone claims to have seen it and claim to have heard about it, But have we even seen the real Celtic in a derby yet? I don't think so.
I think the only game I can think of where we've seen Celtic turn up and be full throttle in a derby is the first one where we beat Rangers 4-0 at Celtic Park. I don't think the game at New Year we were at our best, 2 each. The cup final, I think, was a different kind of game because it was a cup final. I don't think any team goes out and plays the teams can play their best, but I don't think you see a team dominating one in a cup final. Then obviously the most recent one was Celtic went at their best. And as much as there was improvement points from Rangers, they still lost the game to a Celtic side who weren't at their free-flowing best. So if Celtic can turn up and return to playing their best in the derbies, then we'll see a big scoreline. However, it's all about, can we do that? We say in every derby, can we turn up? Can we be our best? Because we know that if we do, we can win the match by a fair few. Michael Beale, I think, has said Rangers have had tough luck or rough luck in the derbies so far, but even though you cannot deny in 3 games in which he's been in charge against Celtic, Rangers have failed to win any. I don't think luck comes into 3 games. Luck maybe 1 game, not 3 games, and you're consistently failing to win. So that's a point to be made. But I think Celtic, if we turn up, I think we can win the match.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about the gap and all that stuff, the gap on the pitch, and the gap on the table and all that stuff. Now, I don't think there's any denying the Rangers team that we beat 4-0 at the beginning of the season is markedly worse than the team that we just played, if that makes sense, in terms of 11 men versus 11 men. They are much closer now to actually being a match in a game where it's a bit more of a fight, if that makes sense. But like in terms of the actual gap, I think there's no progress been made by their end, really. There's no anything been done. If anything, I would find them lucky getting the 2 each draw on Johnson's debut, to be quite honest. But even when you look at that even when you look at the final, and we're talking about Moy, but again, you'd argue now that O'Reilly's better than Moy, and you'd think, oh, imagine we had O'Reilly playing in that game. It would have been way different. Or imagine we had this O'Reilly. If that makes sense. So I'm quite optimistic going into the semi-final. But again, even going into this, what's the state of Jota? What's the state of Rio? What's the state of Carter Vickers? You don't hear us making excuses or anything like that. The club never does. We never do, of course. But it's one of these things where I keep hearing about the real Rangers, and I'm sitting thinking to myself, you've not even seen the real Celtic yet, and you think this real Rangers might be able to do something. And it might be able to do something against like 75% Celtic, because that's all you've got so far. But as I say, progress isn't, there's still, we're not even there yet. You might think that these are getting, I'm doing bad with words now, but
I completely get you. Celtic have still to hit another level, I think, in the derby matches. And as much as the talk of across the city have still to hit another level, we have still to hit another level, frankly. And I think our highest level is higher than their highest level. In my opinion, Celtic, when are at their free-flowing best, we know what Celtic are capable of. We've shown it before in matches, maybe not against Rangers that are not derby matches, and we've shown what we can do, and we are a scary force when we play at our best. We can beat teams 7, 8, 9 goals. We can put as many goals as we like. We control the tempo of matches. The connection between the players is there. The connection between the players and the fans, the manager, everything works well when we click into full gear. We are scary, and we're better than any other team in this country, as much as people say the gap is being closed, when in fact the gap is actually widening.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally. So after the semi-final gets done, let's see how it goes, and let's cross our fingers and toes that the boys in green and white get the job done, of course, and look forward to enjoying that as it rolls out. But we will hopefully, over the next couple of days or so, we'll get some post-split fixtures announced, right? Now, there's a few things going on that we want to get to the bottom of. We want to find out, well, I don't know if we want to find out, right? But we're definitely interested to find out who we're playing the weekend of the coronation. I think we're all quite interested in that. And obviously, we want to find out when the last derby is as well, and try and work out when we will actually win the league, where could we win the league, and all that other kind of stuff in between. The top 6 spot is it's far from determined at the moment. With one game left, like Livingston are 7th, they could still squeeze in. So any one of Hearts, St Mirren, or Hibs theoretically could drop out. So it should be quite an interesting top 6, in terms of the games that we're going to have or whatever. What, if you were to speculate, what do you think that the SFA will do with the derby match?
I don't think it's going to be the first game back, because that'll be at coronation weekend. And if Celtic won that match, they would go 15 points clear with 4 games to go, thus winning the title. So they're not going to give us Rangers in the first game of the season. They're not going to give us Rangers on the last game of the season, because it's trophy day. And I think the second last game is a midweek fixture. So that is a very rarity to have a midweek derby. There's going to be no Celtic fans, though. So they could well do that, the second last game at Ibrox in a midweek. I doubt it, though. So that leaves 2 match days.
Sounds like a riot waiting to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Especially on a summer night, and Celtic are just about to hold the trophy up on the Saturday.
We've got 7-0 at night time, Wednesday night in Ibrox.
Exactly. So that leaves only 2 potential match days, which are the 2nd and 3rd games back after the split. So the weekend of the 13th of May or the weekend of the 20th of May. Celtic, if we win our first game back, we will still be, barring Rangers win all their games as well, and between now and then, Celtic will be 12 points clear with 4 games to go, right? So that, obviously, the title isn't mathematically won yet, but it's frankly won. It would be mathematically won in the second game back. They're not going to give us Rangers to mathematically win the title at Ibrox. They'll wait till we've won the title to play them, in my opinion. So my guess is we'll play Rangers on the weekend of the 20th and 21st of May, which would be the 3rd game back after the split.
That makes sense. I'm also thinking as well, if you're looking at the weekend, they're away to Pittodrie this weekend, and that's always a spicy fixture for them. Aberdeen have won 5 games on the spin. At home, Aberdeen are the 3rd best team in the division with only 4 losses and a draw. And I say at home, they are doing pretty well. Yeah. Just beat Hearts 3-0, Kelly 2-0, put 3 against Motherwell. Barry Robson's got a wee song out of them. So, I don't think we would get them the first game back either. I make you quite right.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I think if it was a draw at the weekend, at Pittodrie, then you know, we'll just be having a party all the way through it. Doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly. I know you wouldn't put it past Aberdeen to get a result though. But it's Pittodrie is in no way an easy place to go, and they are on form. Great players up there. Duke, Leighton Clarkson. They have some good quality. They've obviously Bojan Miovski as well, and obviously Barry Robson has seemed to turn
Liam
the
Scales.
Liam Scales, yeah. He could do us a favour. He could do us a favour indeed. Imagine a Liam Scales goal to no,
a worldie. Wouldn't that be
almost
great?
almost a Johnny Hayes goal. He just signed a new contract with them today. But yeah, I think with Celtic, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. The title will be wrapped up. It would take an absolute disaster or a catastrophe for us to lose the league, which is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'd put my mortgage on it. So I think it's a case of when, not if, and it's just trying to work out that when. I think we've explained our reasoning as to when the derby match could be. But as it stands, if Celtic win all their games, Rangers win all their games, it would be the second game back after the split. Celtic would win the title, which I think is the weekend of the 13th weekend. Yep, just look at my calendar here. The weekend is Saturday the 13th of May or Sunday the 14th of May, either or. I think as well, looking at the top six in terms of fixtures, you're probably looking at 3 away games. You've got obviously got Rangers are still to go to Ibrox. Aberdeen, we've only been to Pittodrie once. Obviously, Cal McGregor getting the last minute winner. So you're probably looking at trips to Pittodrie, Ibrox, and then obviously Hearts. We've only been to Tynecastle once in the league. So if they make top 6, you're looking at a trip to Tynecastle. St Mirren, we're due them at home again because we've been to Paisley twice. So yeah, exactly. So I reckon it'll be St Mirren at home if they make top 6 in Trophy Day. Then Hibs, Livy, Motherwell. I think we've only been to Easter Road once as well. We won 4-0. I think
They just came to Parkhead recently. I can remember that.
Yeah.
So we're probably due away to Easter Road.
Yeah, we beat them 6-1 at the start of the season. Forrest scored a hat-trick.
Good hard at home. We could be on for away games at the Mall. Technically, I know we wouldn't let that happen. Or would they let that? Would they let us play away on the Mall?
I doubt it. We need the last game at home for Trophy Day, definitely.
So that'll be St Mirren then, because everyone else is away from home.
I think, how many times have we been to the Tony Macaroni? I think it's once we've only been there this season as well. 3-0.
Top 6. They've got Hibs in this game, but so that's a 6-pointer right on the bubble.
Yeah, and it's the last game. So after, I think in next week's podcast, if the fixtures aren't already out, you'll be able to get a bigger, give more reasoning and give better predictions as to who we're going to play. But
imagine we were away for them all except for the one where we get the trophy.
We're
doing the tour. That'd be not bad, but the away fans probably like that. Do a wee tour of Scotland,
But I think you would have much more worry about it if we went in the position we were. Like obviously, say we were only a point ahead of Rangers or a point behind Rangers, and you're having to go to Ibrox, Pittodrie, Tynecastle, Easter Road. You're looking at all these difficult venues, but it's good Celtic have laid out the groundwork earlier in the season so that we can not have to worry about pressure in these matches and just go out and play our football and do what we do best and not have to worry or stress.
Big time. Now we're kicking down the door all over the place, Joshy. To wrap us up, we're at home at Motherwell this week. We're averaging a score at home of 3-1, right? Motherwell themselves, away from home, they average a score of 1 each, kind of, or 1.2 or something like that, right? Now, can I get a score prediction out of you? What do you think we're going to get this weekend?
I'm going to go for a 4-1 Celtic victory.
4-1 again, same as last weekend?
4-1, yeah.
Cool. I'm going to go for 4-0 because I really hope we get the clean sheet this week. Nothing funny or spooky happens. But 4-0 feels good to me, mate.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
You go to the game? You're going to watch it on the telly?
I think I'm busy before the game, so I'll probably have to watch it in the house. Give up my season ticket for this weekend, but I'll be back. I didn't get a semi-final ticket, which is quite annoying, but I'll be back with a vengeance in the first home game after the split. Hopefully, we'll have wrapped up the title by that point. You never know.
That's it. Well, if you're going to the game, enjoy yourself, travel safe. Good luck for the weekend. Hail, hail, Josh.
Hail, hail.